Parents told me grandma was in the hospital, so I booked a flight. But when I arrived, the receptionist looked confused. Your grandmother left the country last month. Then, an old man in the lobby waved me over. She said you'd come, and she left this for you. I always hated hospitals. The sterile smell, the artificial lighting, the eerie quiet punctuated by the occasional beep of a heart monitor. But I didn't hesitate when my parents called, voices tight with urgency. Grandma's in the hospital. It's bad. That was all they said before the line went dead. I booked the next flight out, throwing clothes into a suitcase without thinking. The 5-hour flight was a blur, staring blankly at the seatback screen, coffee turning cold in my hands, turbulence that didn't faze me. My mind raced with memories. The way grandma used to scold me for slouching. The way she smelled like lavender and old books. The way her eyes always seemed to know more than she let on. By the time I landed, my stomach was in knots. I rushed through baggage claim, barely registering the damp heat clinging to my skin as I hailed a cab. Street Point Vincent Hospital, I told the driver. The city blurred past. It had been years since I'd visited, but nothing looked different. Same cracked sidewalks, same flickering streetlights, same heavy feeling pressing on my chest. When I finally stepped into the hospital lobby, the air smelled like disinfectant and something metallic, something wrong. I approached the receptionist, my pulse hammering. I'm here for my grandmother. She was admitted recently, I said, voice tighter than I intended. The woman frowned, clicking through her computer. Her confusion deepened. Sir, there's no record of your grandmother being admitted here. A cold weight settled in my stomach. Check again. Maybe she was transferred to another floor. The receptionist shook her head, adjusting her glasses. There's no mistake. According to our system, your grandmother hasn't been here in over a year. And she hesitated, eyeing me warily. She left the country last month. The words knocked the air out of my lungs. What? My voice came out hoarse. I'm sorry. That's all I can tell you. This wasn't possible. My parents wouldn't have lied, would they? Before I could press further, movement in the corner of my vision caught my attention. An old man sat in one of the lobby chairs, his wrinkled hands resting on a cane. He was watching me. No, studying me. Then he lifted a hand and beckoned me over. I hesitated. Hospitals were full of strange people. But something about his eyes, sharp, knowing, made my feet move before my brain could catch up. He waited until I was close before speaking. His voice was rough, like gravel grinding together. She said you'd come. A shiver ran down my spine. The old man reached into his coat and pulled out a small, leather-bound book. He held it out to me, his expression unreadable. And she left this for you. I took the book carefully, as if it might explode in my hands. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed at the edges. My grandmother's initials were embossed on the front. My throat tightened. Where is she? The old man's lips pressed into a thin line. Gone. Gone where? He didn't answer. I flipped open the book, scanning the first page. My breath hitched. It wasn't a journal. It wasn't a letter. It was a list. Names. Dates. Transactions. And at the bottom, a name I knew. A name that made my blood run cold. My father's. I stared at my father's name, inked in careful, deliberate strokes. My grip on the leather-bound book tightened. The weight of it suddenly felt unbearable. The old man watched me, his gaze steady but unreadable. What is this? My voice barely made it past my tightening throat. A record, he said. Your grandmother kept track of things. Things she wasn't supposed to know. I flipped through the pages, my pulse hammering. The list stretched far beyond my father's name. Dozens of others, each accompanied by dates, sums of money, and cryptic notations. Some names I recognized. Local businessmen, judges, even a few politicians. I swallowed hard. This doesn't make sense. The old man's mouth twisted into something that wasn't quite a smile. Doesn't it? A sick feeling settled in my stomach. My grandmother wasn't just an old woman with a fondness for crossword puzzles and black tea. She had been keeping records, evidence, and now she was gone. Where is she? I demanded, my voice rising. You said she left the country. Where did she go? He exhaled sharply, as if considering how much to tell me. Then he gestured toward the book. She found something she wasn't supposed to, and someone made sure she disappeared before she could talk. I barely heard him. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of what I was holding. If my father's name was in here, what had he done? I needed answers. I turned on my heel, clutching the book, and stormed out of the hospital. The air outside was thick with humidity, but I barely noticed. I pulled out my phone and dialed my mother's number. It rang, and rang, and rang. Voicemail. I tried my father. Same thing. A cold dread crept up my spine. I hailed a cab, throwing the driver my parents' address. The ride felt endless, my knee bouncing as I flipped through more of the ledger. There were notes in the margins. Handwriting I recognized, my grandmother's. Some of the entries had check marks next to them. Others had X's. I didn't know what they meant, but I knew one thing. My father's name had an X. The cab jerked to a stop in front of my parents' house. The lights were off. The curtains drawn. Something was wrong. I hesitated for only a second before stepping out. The front door was unlocked. Wide open. My stomach dropped. Mom? Dad? My voice echoed through the empty house. No answer. I stepped inside, every nerve in my body on edge. The living room was exactly as I remembered. Photos on the mantel, the old floral couch, the faint scent of my mother's vanilla candles. But something felt off. I walked deeper into the house, heart pounding. Then I saw it. The dining table. Papers were scattered across the surface. I stepped closer, my breath catching. Bank statements. Property records. And in the middle of it all, a second ledger. Just like the one in my hands. But this one was different. The names were fewer. The dates more recent. And at the very bottom, my grandmother's name. Underlined. A sudden noise made me spin around. The front door creaked shut. Someone else was here. I barely had time to react before a voice, cold, smooth, familiar, cut through the silence. You shouldn't have come back. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. And there stood my father. My father stood in the dim light of the hallway, his silhouette sharp against the darkness outside. He didn't look surprised to see me. If anything, he looked disappointed. You shouldn't have come back, he repeated, stepping forward. His voice was steady, but there was something off in his eyes, something calculating. My grip tightened around the ledger. Where's Mom? I demanded. No answer. Where is she? My voice came out sharper this time. Still nothing. Instead, his gaze dropped to the book in my hands. Where did you get that? My pulse hammered. Grandma left it for me. His jaw twitched. That woman never knew when to leave things alone. I took a step back. The air between us had shifted, thick with something unspoken. Dangerous. You knew, didn't you? I pressed. About the records. About whatever she was keeping track of. A muscle in his cheek jumped. Put the book down. I didn't. Tell me what's going on. Now is not the time for questions, he said, stepping closer. I moved instinctively, putting the dining table between us. The second ledger, the one with Grandma's name underlined, was still lying open on the surface. I didn't want to believe it, but the pieces were falling into place too fast for me to stop them. The call, the hospital lie, the missing parents. You did something to her. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. His expression darkened. Watch what you say. You were covering something up. Something bad. And Grandma found out, didn't she? I gestured toward the ledgers. Is that why she ran? Because she knew what you'd do to her if she stayed. His lips pressed into a thin line. I felt sick. Where is she? I demanded again. Something flickered across his face. It was gone in a second, but I saw it. Guilt. I lunged for the second ledger. If I could find more names, more connections, maybe I could. Too late. His hand slammed down over mine, fingers crushing my wrist. Enough, he growled. Pain shot up my arm, but I refused to let go. I wrenched myself free, stumbling back. He sighed. Rubbing his temple like this was all some inconvenience. You don't understand what you're getting involved in. Then explain it to me. For a moment, he hesitated. A crack in the facade. Then he exhaled slowly. Your grandmother made a mistake. She got into something bigger than she could handle. She should have stayed quiet. My stomach twisted. So you made her disappear? His mouth flattened. She's alive. For now. For now. The words sent ice through my veins. Where is she? Silence. I shook my head. You're my father. You're supposed to protect you? He let out a humorless laugh. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. By lying to me? By covering up what? Fraud? Corruption? I gestured wildly to the papers. What the HLL is all of this? Survival, he said simply. Something your grandmother never understood. I clenched my fists. Where is she? He studied me for a long moment, then sighed, like I'd worn him down. She left something behind. More than just that book. He nodded toward the ledger. Something people want. Something people would KLL for. My throat went dry. What? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket. My breath caught. My body tensed. But he didn't pull out a weapon. Instead, he tossed something onto the table. A plane ticket. One way. International. I swallowed hard. You want answers? He said. You're not going to find them here. I looked at the ticket. Then at him. There was something unsettling about the way he stood there, watching me. Like he was waiting for something. My instincts screamed at me to run. But I couldn't. Not yet. Not without finding her. I picked up the ticket, my heart hammering. Where does this take me? His lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. To the last place she was seen alive. The plane ticket felt heavier than it should have. Like it carried the weight of every question burning inside me. I didn't trust my father, not for a second, but I knew one thing for sure. He wanted me gone. Which meant this ticket wasn't just a clue. It was a test. A trap. Maybe both. But if it led me to Grandma, I didn't have a choice. The flight was long. Too long. My thoughts spiraled the entire time, replaying every conversation, every look, every lie my family had ever told me. By the time the plane touched down, I felt raw, sleep-deprived, but I had no time to recover. As soon as I stepped out into the humid air of the foreign city, a man was waiting. Tall, clean-cut, too well dressed for someone standing outside an airport. I walked past him, pretending not to notice, but my gut was already screaming. I didn't make it 5 steps before he fell into stride beside me. You must be the grandson. I stopped cold, turned slowly. He smiled. She said you'd come. The same words the old man at the hospital had used. My hands curled into fists. Where is she? He studied me, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. That depends. On what? How much you really want to know? I took a step closer, barely keeping my voice steady. I didn't fly across the world for riddles. Then follow me, he said simply. I hesitated. Trusting him was a risk, but not trusting him might be worse. I followed. The car ride was tense, silent. We drove through winding streets, past towering buildings and neon-lit signs, until we reached a quieter part of the city. Old stone walls, narrow alleyways. The car stopped in front of an unmarked door. He gestured. Inside. I stepped in cautiously. The air was thick with dust and old paper. Bookshelves lined the walls, stacked with folders, ledgers, more records. Like grandma's. And then I saw her. Not grandma. A woman. Older, but sharp-eyed. Sitting at a desk covered in documents. She looked up, studied me. Then she smiled. She said you'd come. My patience snapped. Stop saying that. Where is she? The woman leaned back in her chair. Your grandmother uncovered something dangerous. Something that should have stayed buried. And now, everyone wants a piece of it. I clenched my jaw. What is it? She slid a folder across the table. I opened it. My breath caught. Inside were photographs. My father. Meeting with people I didn't recognize. Exchanging briefcases. Signing documents. And then, a photo of grandma. Not old. Recent. She was looking over her shoulder. Afraid. My hands shook. She's alive. For now, the woman said. I looked up sharply. Where is she? She exhaled. She wanted to find something. Proof. The kind of proof that could bring down everyone in those ledgers. I felt my heart pound harder. Where? She hesitated. Then said, the place where it all started. I frowned. And where's that? She slid another piece of paper toward me. An address. I read it. My blood ran cold. I knew that address. It was my childhood home. My childhood home. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. She came back. After all the running, all the warnings, she had returned to the one place she swore she'd never go again. Why? The woman across from me watched as the realization settled in. Whatever proof she was looking for, it's there. I clenched my fists. My father had sent me across the world, made me chase ghosts, all to keep me away from the one place where the truth had been waiting. I had wasted enough time. I grabbed the address and walked out. The cab ride to my old neighborhood felt surreal. The city outside blurred as memories flooded back. Bike rides on the cracked pavement, summer nights catching fireflies, grandma's voice calling me in for dinner. And now? Now it was a crime scene waiting to be uncovered. The house looked the same from the outside. Too normal. A neatly trimmed lawn, dark shutters, the porch light still flickering from a faulty connection no one ever fixed. I stepped out of the car, stood there for a moment, just breathing. Then I walked up the steps and tried the door. Locked. I wasn't expecting it to be easy. I moved around the side of the house, searching. The back door had always had a weak latch. I pushed. It creaked open. The air inside was stale, dust hanging in the dim light. The furniture was still there, like a time capsule of a life that had ended long ago. But I wasn't here for nostalgia. I was here for her. I moved through the house slowly, my pulse hammering. Where would she have gone? Then I saw it. A light. Faint, coming from the basement door. I swallowed hard. The basement. I reached for the knob. Turned it. The door creaked open, revealing the old wooden stairs leading into darkness. I took a step down. Then another. Then, a rustling sound below. I froze. Grandma. My voice barely made it past my lips. Silence. Then a whisper. Weak. Strained. Run. My breath caught. Then light flooded the basement, and someone grabbed me from behind. The grip was iron tight, yanking me backward. I struggled, my elbow slamming into ribs. A grunt of pain. I twisted, breaking free, and spun around. My father. His face was shadowed, his expression unreadable. You should have stayed away. I took a step back. Where is she? A flicker of something crossed his face. Regret? Guilt? She didn't know when to stop, he said quietly. And now? I shoved past him, bolting down the stairs before he could stop me. And then I saw her. Grandma. She was slumped against the wall, wrists bound, face pale. But alive. Relief flooded me. Grandma. Don't, she croaked. He'll kill you. Footsteps behind me. I turned just as my father stepped into the light, something metallic glinting in his hand. A gun. Cold fear slammed into me. I never wanted it to come to this, he said. And for the first time, I believed him. There was no triumph in his face. No satisfaction. Just a man who had gone too far and knew there was no way back. You don't have to do this, I said. He let out a long breath. You don't understand. If she hands over what she found, we all die. I glanced at Grandma. She was shaking her head. Lies, she rasped. He's trying to save himself. That's all he's ever done. I looked back at him. Who's coming after you? His jaw tightened. People who don't leave loose ends. I took a step forward. Then let's end this the right way. His grip on the gun wavered. For the first time, he looked lost. A loud bang shattered the silence. I flinched, but the bullet never hit me. My father staggered back, shock written all over his face. He dropped the gun, hands clutching his side as blood bloomed against his shirt. Behind him, Grandma, standing, holding a gun with trembling hands. She had saved me. Again. He swayed, collapsed. I rushed to her side, catching her before she could fall, too. She looked up at me, eyes filled with something I couldn't name. Regret? Relief? Had to do it, she whispered. I nodded. I know. Sirens wailed in the distance. It was over. The trial was long, ugly, but justice was served. The ledger's grandma kept unraveled a web of corruption that ran deeper than I ever imagined. My father's name was just one of many that fell. Grandma testified. She didn't run this time. She stayed, fought, and I stayed with her. One night, after it was all over, we sat on the porch of her new home, far from the ghosts of our past. She sipped her tea, watching the sunset. You're a good man, she said softly. Better than your father. I swallowed hard. I just did what was right. She smiled. That's what makes you better. I sat in silence, watching the sky turn shades of gold and crimson. The past would always haunt us. But for the first time in a long time, we were free.